They are powerful leaders, trailblazers, dynamic and determined women. Our sheroes, we celebrate them as part of Women's History Month.
Professor Taifa, I am so excited to chat with you today.
Well, first of all, let's get rid of the professor. That was like 20 years ago. How you doing? Oh,
I'm doing great, and it's
NKechi, just the key.
Okay, fine, NKechi. It's just wonderful, honestly, to be able to say that I was one of your students, because I know that you meant so much to so many, but depending on what path we took in terms of our legal career, we may or may not have been able to utilize all of the, kind of values that you instilled in us in the pursuit of our respective roles. But I can tell you that in my job, I hear you in my head all the time. And so I really am so grateful to have had an opportunity to be your student and to learn from you, and just to watch how committed you have been to the cause of justice for so many years.
Well, let me just say this. I was just so very proud and thrilled that you were in my class. I mean, Aisha, Braveboy, I mean, you were just one of those students that I just knew was going to go somewhere. And then, several years later, I see your name pop up here and I pop up there, and I saw you rise up. I said, look at this sister, this rising star. And look at you now, the state's attorney. I mean, you just made everything that I tried to do and tried to instill. You just made it manifest. So thank you for you.
Well, thank you. So, this month we're celebrating the accomplishments of brilliant women like you. So tell us, what does Women's History Month, this month of March, mean to you?
Well, actually, I look at it like I look at Black History Month. It's every single month of the year, Black History Month, Women's History Month, every single month of the year. But I will say this, if we got to just have one month, I mean, let me tell you, I'm a professional woman, I'm a powerful woman, but I like to be a little pampered sometimes too. I mean,
Yes.
I'm a fierce woman, but I like to have a little bit of fun too. So if this is the month that we get to be pampered, get to have some fun while shining through our brilliance, I say, come on, bring it on. So it means, reflection.
Yes.
It means celebration. It means, looking back and lifting up those whose shoulders that we stand on. It means all those things to me, but it means some of those nice little special things as well.
Absolutely. And, you've accomplished so much throughout your career. And I know this is going to be tough to say, but can you tell me something that stands out to you that you are proud of?
Well, I will say this. When I was coming up, which was quite a while ago, okay, there was no one really talking about criminal justice reform. And I seem to kind of take to that. Why, I'm not quite sure, but I kind of took to it and really wanted to demystify the issue, wanted to humanize people who were coming out of prison, that they deserved a second chance, that they deserved reentry efforts, that there was too much over-criminalization and over-incarceration. And so I sought to do those things. I was coming up during the time when the Crime Bill of '94 was being debated around in Congress. And basically, everybody was saying the same thing, but I was looking a little bit further. Are there some unintended consequences there? So I would say one of the things that stands out in my mind is this whole disparity between crack and powder cocaine, which was an issue that I helped to lead, really.
Yes, you did.
Over 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago. We're still battling things like that today. But I would say professionally, it would be demystifying and humanizing issues dealing with criminal justice. And I will say this, with where you are now and the seat that you sit in and the trailblazing work that you're doing, particularly that conviction and integrity sentencing unit, I mean, those are the things that, these are the tools that prosecutors have. And I'm just thrilled that you are trailblazing on those fronts as well.
Well, I have some great role models, as you know. that I have to look to. But I really do appreciate, again, your work, especially as you talked about with crack cocaine and powder cocaine, because we see some of the same disparities actually when it has come to things like marijuana. And then when we look at some of the other drugs that have impacted communities that were primarily not of color, and how they were treated mainly as a public health issue, which we're not saying it was not, but was marijuana not a way for people to, soothe themselves or deal with the stresses of life? And so I think that your work really kind of paved the way for us to even look at, decriminalizing, or in some cases legalizing things like marijuana. So I think that work can apply to so many areas that we're still trying to grapple with today.
Thank you. You're absolutely right, because we really need public health approaches more often than what we see a lot now in terms of the punishment modality. Communities need to be treated similarly.
It's interesting because when I look at you, I know you as this, fierce, just civil rights and human rights leader, but you're also, like you said, you're a woman, you're a mother, you're just a great person, and you're also extremely brilliant. I think that was one of the first things I kind of got and knew about you, was that she is smart. And so you probably had a lot of different choices in terms of how your legal career would go. So why did you choose to stay in really this human rights, civil rights reform space?
Oh, well, actually the spark for me came quite early. I came up right after the civil rights era, I guess you could say, during the time when Black Studies was coming into the classroom. And I'm in the 8th grade and they have Black Studies. I said, oh yeah, I want to take this. And on the bulletin board of the Black Studies class was a poster of a Black man with a black beret on his head, with a spear in one hand and a rifle in the other hand, sitting in a Grand Slam wicker chair. And all the teenage girls were talking about how fine this dude was. But I was asking the teacher, well, why is he in prison? And I'm saying, why is the head of the Black Panther Party being represented by white lawyers? I'm saying, where are the Black lawyers to represent Black people? And from that point on, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be one of those lawyers that would represent Black people and help to make a difference in society. So I kind of kept that throughout my career. And I did, in fact, go to law school. And I did, in fact, become a lawyer. Yeah.
And you've represented so many Black people and others, and we are so grateful that you actually chose to do this work, because I think had you not done the work when it wasn't the popular thing, that there would be no work to really do, or we'd have to start from scratch now, but you paved the way for us to continue to do the work that we're doing now. So we are grateful that you chose this path in terms of your legal career. But what I know is that even when you talked about the civil rights movement, a lot of the leaders that come out of that movement were men that were held in that unit, out of that movement. Although there were so many women in the trenches working really hard, but maybe didn't get the notoriety or recognition. And, being in the legal field, which is still dominated primarily by men, I'd like to know, what challenges have you faced as a woman as you've tried to move the system the way that you believe it was important for us to move? Have you faced challenges being a woman in this space?
Yeah, well, honestly, because we are such intersectional people, it's kind of hard to separate the challenges I face as a female, as a woman, or the challenges I face as a Black woman, the challenges I face as a deeply melanated woman, the challenges I face with a woman with an African name, the challenges I face with a woman with natural hair. So it kind of is all intersectionally combined. But let me tell you, there have been challenges. I cannot isolate which it was, or, but definitely challenges always, having to be better than others, just to be taken seriously. One of the reasons why I decided to go into law as well, because things that I was saying and talking about, things that are now tabletop mainstream conversation today was way on the fringe back then 40 years ago. Issues like reparations,
Right.
things like that. So I wanted to have some letters, degrees behind my name so I would be taken seriously, so that despite the fact that I'm a woman, despite the fact that I'm Black, despite the fact that I chose to go into a professional career with an African name that I selected myself. I mean, so all of those, yeah, I wasn't born with NKechi. I know you were born with Aisha because you came, later, but my mama back in the 60s did not name me NKechi. My name was Anita.
Oh.
It's all good. But so yeah, there's been challenges, but I'm glad to feel that I have been able to leap hurdle over them because of perseverance and persistence and a lot of hard work.
It's interesting that you brought up not just being a Black woman in this space, but even like a heavily melanated woman like myself in this space, because oftentimes you're right, there is there's different treatment, unfortunately, still in this country, obviously dating back to slavery and Jim Crow and everything else that, that really still, unfortunately, has or plays a role sometimes in our societies, in our communities, as who we lift up as leaders and who we look to for guidance. And I appreciate the fact that you really did raise that as an issue. And I think one of the things that that endeared someone like First Lady Michelle Obama to so many of us is that it was really one of the very first times that we had a real dark brown girl in a position of power, influence, who was loved so much by her husband and was revered by so many, that for a lot of us, we were just so proud that there was a level of acceptance, and I think it did pave the way for more women who look like us to be in leadership positions. I know we don't talk about it a lot, but I think it is something that is relevant to the conversation.
It absolutely is, absolutely. So thank you for raising up, our former First Lady in that capacity.
And guess what? We have now another phenomenal sister who's in a position of power, Kamala Harris, who's been a huge champion herself. She's faced a lot of criticism about some actions she took as state's attorney. Well, I guess they call them district attorneys out there, or some positions she took as the Attorney General in California. But I think by and large, when you look at her total body of work, she has really, I think, led on some very major issues around reform. So what do you see in terms of now women's opportunities to really not just be at the table, but to help to set the table around some of these issues? Like what should we be expecting, looking for? What should we be helping our vice president with as we move forward in this space of reform?
So first of all, I just want to say I worked very closely with Kamala Harris when she was in the Senate and with her staff. And I'm telling you, 100%. I mean, I'm telling you, I come from a defense background. I mean, I didn't come from a prosecutorial, background. And for me to be able to just see the value that she brought, not only while she was in the Senate, but the value that she is bringing now that she is in the White House. She stands on the shoulders, not just of Michelle Obama. She stands on the shoulders of Shirley Chisholm. She stands on the shoulders of Barbara Jordan. She stands on the shoulders of Fannie Lou Hamer. We'll go back even further. She stands on the shoulders of Harriet Tubman. I mean, I'm just saying, we're talking about powerful people, women who were fearless, women who are fearless. She stands on those shoulders, and we need to be there to support her, because there's going to be another step. We need to support that next step. We talking about 4 years, I mean, whatever. The presidency. I mean, I'm just saying, never in my wildest dreams, first of all, would I believe we would have had the first Black president with respect to Barack Obama. but we might be on the verge, again. But what we need to do though, it's not just about race. It really, it's about race, and it's about a consciousness. I mean, you could be a Black person or a woman on the Supreme Court and not necessarily do things that are in the best interests of the community. But when you have those two things together, that needs to be prompted up, that needs to be supported. That's not to say there's no accountability. That's not to say that at all. There must be accountability. We must hold all of our leaders' feet to the fire. But I'm telling you, I'm just so very thrilled that there are leaders there that I feel really good about holding their feet to the fire and knowing that they're going to come out on the other side, doing the best thing or as close to it as they can.
As they can, absolutely. And we definitely need to get behind our leaders. And we also, like you said, need to gently push them, or maybe push them a little bit more. Because when we look at opportunities like the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, like really finally addressing this issue of voter enfranchisement, and making sure that everybody has access and opportunity. And when we look at addressing the issues of systemic racism, which, even our new Attorney General has at least indicated that that's the direction that he wants to move the Justice Department. Some of this is going to take the Democrats, not only in the House, but the Senate, to push, to do the extraordinary thing, and this filibuster rule. Like, they're going to have to figure out a way to override that, because they promised the people that if we just win Georgia, we can pass all of this important legislation. And it needs to happen. It needs to happen, because what we know is that if Kamala is called upon to cast the deciding vote, we know where she'll be. So we need to help get her in that position. So, and I think I want to end here just with your final thoughts about this. What can we do right now to ensure that all of those really important values, that important legislation at the federal level, that we get those bills passed, because they're so critical to our survival?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we need to know what they are. There was a hearing just today in Judiciary Committee dealing with, drug issues and policies. George Floyd just passed, the House. We need to make sure it passes the Senate. We need to really do away with the filibuster. It is a relic from the past. It is a relic from the past that did not allow federal lynching laws to be able, to pass. If the majority said something is something, why do we need that super majority that's going to always keep us down? So, we need to support measures that are out there. There's so many bills out there that are seeking to rectify the harms from the past. We need to be knowledgeable about them. We need to, when folk are out there in the streets, protesting or whatever folk are doing, they need to be doing it with love. Okay, so that with love, we can take the power of the constituency and bring it to power up on the Hill and in the state capitals and the like. And folk need to take a lesson from your playbook, State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy. They need to follow your example. They need to follow your leadership. You are a jewel there, in Maryland, what we call the 9th Ward of DC. I'm in DC. So I just want to really thank you for all that you are and all that you've done, and for helping to lift up women, to lift up people, to lift up what I call everyday heroes. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you. Howard University School of Law was the greatest decision I ever made, going to that school. But encountering you was one of the greatest blessings of my life. So I really wanted an opportunity to chat with you today. I know we'll be talking even more because I think there's some things that we can work on together. But I am so grateful for your leadership and the fact that you still enjoy life. With all that you've done, all the heavy work you've done, all the grind that you've been through, you're still absolutely beautiful. You always have a positive attitude, and you're always uplifting others. So thank you for being one of my sheroes and a shero to the world.
Thank you, Aisha Braveboy. Love you so much.